Wow, they're not holding back any punches now. I mean, we've known for quite some time that there's been a real push to not hire whites. They call us Caucasians, but, whites. And, I mean, it's been clear. I mean, it hasn't really affected me or what I'm doing, but it certainly has affected friends of mine and some family and different people. So, now if you're a mulatto, well, I guess mulatto is a bad word there now. I don't know what the hell they call them there now. But anyway, if you're a mixed race, that's probably not politically correct either. I don't know. But if you're a mutt, okay, who's a homosexual, transgender, pissing in the litter box, they, them, they want you. But if you're white or black, blacks are next. Trust me, you're next. Heterosexual, they don't want you. And they don't even want you if you're a white, white gay. That's not diverse enough. This DEI thing has gotten quite out of hand. So anyway, but CBC just posted an ad. They were looking for a CBC, for those of you who are unaware outside of Canada. This is a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or we used to call them the Communist Broadcasting Company. And it used to be publicly owned, of course. Now it's bought and paid for by the politicians and their advertisers and what have you. It used to be more like PBS used to be back in the 70s or 60s or something like that. And so they just put out an ad. They were looking for a host for a children's program. So, I mean, if you're a 55-year-old Asian transgender who identifies as 11-year-old and swims with little girls, you'd probably get the job, even if you've been arrested for pedophilia. But right in the ad, it states clearly, Caucasians need not apply. No Caucasians will be hired, or can't remember the exact wording, but I'll put it up here. And so, and I mean, I've heard people complaining about it, but there's really been no way to actually prove it in a lot of cases that this has been going on. And all my life, I'm saying, treat this one fairly, or treat that one fairly, or we were rough to the natives, like, I don't know, in 1860. Not in my life. I mean, I have lots of friends who are natives. I have lots of friends who are blacks. I know lots of homosexual men, and they identify as gay men, not gay, transgender, they, them. They think this is all nonsense, too. So, but, over the course of, a lifetime, you run into a plethora of people, and most of them you don't even know what they are. They're just people, right? You don't care. What they do in their bedroom is their business. I couldn't care less. It's got nothing to do with me. But when you put it in print that we're not going to hire you because you're white, what do we got to do? What do we got to do? Move from the back of the bus to the front to get attention? I mean, I'm not trying to take away from any activists, that have been very important throughout history or anything like that. But I mean, we're getting quite ridiculous. So, and this is only getting worse. I mean, it's getting to the point there now in Ireland and in Europe, the rest of Europe, but Ireland right now, strangely enough, houses that are being put aside for immigrants and for different people, woke ideology and things like that, they're magically being burnt to the ground. Similar things are happening in France, and of course the immigrants are fighting back like they belong there. Like not the generations of people who built the country and and designed it around their wants, needs, likes, and desires. It seems that as far as the government's concerned, they have no say in the matter, and we all get our turn. So if you think what happened in Iraq or Bosnia or Afghanistan or whatever can't happen in North America, it can, and it will, and it'll happen because we'll let it. I mean, they won't have to. We won't be going out with a bang. It'll be more like a whimper, at the way that the population acts right now. It'll just be like they'll just lie down and let them roll right over them. Come on in. We'll try and be as fair as we can, while they take away all your rights, stick you in 15-minute cities, fluoridate your water, jab you with the jab, and you're a good citizen. Pay your taxes, and as soon as you are no longer useful to pay taxes, well, you just please go off and die. In Canada here, they'll euthanize you. I mean, they just offered a lady who asked the government, I'll put a link to that here too, I forget her name, but she's a Special Olympics Olympian. And I've heard of her before. I don't follow the Olympics. I'm not a sports person per se. If somebody's bouncing a ball back and forth for a living, I generally lose interest. I mean, good for them if they can do it, but it's not my thing. And so when she was asking for help, she was offered euthanasia. I think she wanted a ramp. That's how crazy it's gotten. Yeah, we'll just kill you if you want. So you're not as useful as you can be. This is a sad state of affairs. I mean, so if you're white, yeah, you're not welcome. You're not getting the job. And what's going to happen here now, like anything else, I mean, eventually, hopefully, white people start to realize what's happening or act on their realizations and say, okay, enough is enough, stop. Because otherwise, you're going to end up with nothing. They've already fluoridated you, they've already jabbed you, they've already trained you for decades not to have children, to get careers, to not have a family, to get away from the family. They've done everything that's necessary over the last 50, 60 years to train you to be a citizen and not be a productive, loving family member who cares about the people around you and with long-term relationships that help build a society and and your own identity. And they said very clearly, that they want to breed out the whites, and I'll put it right here now.
I mean, look at the Kalergi plan. Look what they plan to do to the West. And I've said it many, many times. Barbara Lerner, that video that I've played you before of Barbara Lerner out there saying, yes, well, Europe must become multicultural.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
And by Europe, she means all white Western nations.
And so, I forget the lady's name that you just watched because I'm inserting it after. Anyway, you see what I mean? Like, they're not hiding it. You just have to pay attention. And so now it's time to start paying attention because for decades we were taught not to judge people by the color of their skin and not to make our hiring practices based on the color of skin. And now that's okay if you're white. Please ponder it. Cheers.